Good evening, everybody. My name is Reverend Khalif Crutcher, and I am a member of the AACPG of Lake County, the African American Community Partnership Group. And tonight we have an amazing kickoff to our COVID and Faith series that will take place every Thursday in the month of March at 6 p.m. right here live on Facebook. Tonight we have an awesome lineup for you, and I'll get to their bios in just 1 second. But we want to invite you right now to like, love, comment, and share this link to those on your Facebook page so you can get the word out as we talk about COVID and faith. So welcome, come on in, come on in, come on in, and share the link as we engage in this conversation together. We want to let you know that throughout the portion of this broadcast, please feel free to comment any questions that you may have, because we plan to get to those within the latter half of our conversation today. So welcome. Again, my name is Reverend Khalif Crutcher. I'm a member of AACPG. I am also one of the staff chaplains at Advocate Condell Medical Center in Lake County, and I'm also serving as the senior pastor of New Hope Christian Methodist Episcopal Church in the city of Evanston, where everybody is somebody. Tonight, we have Bishop Sylvester Williams joining us. Bishop Sylvester Williams is the 58th bishop of our Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. He was elected and anointed and appointed in July 2014 to serve as our bishop in the Christian Methodist Episcopal Church. He is now serving in the Southeast Missouri, Illinois, Wisconsin region of our denomination, which is the 3rd Episcopal District of the CME Church. He is married to Mrs. First Lady Carmen Williams, who is his partner in ministry. He has some children and a bunch of grandchildren continuing and coming along. So we're grateful to have Bishop Williams here with us. We also have Miss Amber Bolden. She is an educator, professional school and community counselor, and owner of Bolden Consulting. Amber is mission-driven when it comes to helping others vitalize their mental health and wellness. Whether supporting families or training organizations, Amber brings her brand of compassion, zeal, and humor and faith to the work of transformation. She is a member of that great church, New Life Covenant Church in Southeast in Chicago. And her desire is to see healing and wholeness in others and connect faith and feelings. Welcome, Miss Amber Bolden. And also, last but not least, we have Reverend Dr. Michael Neighbors with us. Reverend Dr. Neighbors is the senior pastor of Second Baptist Church in Evanston, Illinois. He is also serving in his 3rd term as the president of the NAACP of Evanston and North Shore. Dr. Neighbors and the folk at Second Baptist are extremely spearheading this COVID and faith effort in the city of Evanston, and we're grateful that we have him joining our conversation today. Now, Bishop Williams, as they would say in the CME church, now that protocol has been established, let us just have this conversation about COVID and faith. And let me share with everybody before we get into the questions that there has been a lot of conversation in faith communities, especially in the Black church, about COVID and faith. Especially last year when the pandemic really became to the height of what it was. And so, Amber, I have a question for you as the only layperson on our panel tonight. What has it been like for you in the perspective of those within laity in the church?
Sure. So people are really struggling, right? One of the things that our faith community provides for us is structure, as well as a routine. Just that bonding that we look forward to at various times throughout the week. And so while people have adapted somewhat to the virtual environment, it just isn't the same. Right? You want to be able to hug people. You want to be able to shake people's hands. You want to be able to see people in real time. You want to be able to engage in service in real time. And it isn't the same when you're doing it on a social media platform and some people are distracted by the comments, right? Different things like that. We're grateful for the platform, but it's just very different. And so, people have, different churches have had to create different kinds of groups to try to make sure that people stay engaged. And so, people are really looking forward to going back inside the building, even though we are the church, right? They want to be physically inside the church, and fellowship with fellow believers.
Absolutely. And you mentioned something that's critical in there, right? Is this idea of relationship, right? We are a people who, hey, sister so and so, hey, sister, brother so and we hugging on folk, kissing on folk neck, but we don't have that opportunity. One, because it's not safe, and two, because everything is virtual right now. So, Dr. Neighbors, how have you as a pastor been able to cultivate relationship and talk about strengthening people's faith during the pandemic?
Reverend Crutcher, that's a great question. And let me say that at Second Baptist, one of the things that we did immediately is we sort of tracked what other folks were doing as soon as the nation shut down on the second Sunday of March a year ago. And so on the third Sunday, we shut down as a church, which means that we closed our doors for public worship. We closed our doors for Bible studies and for other meetings of our ministries. And we immediately began to investigate what it meant to have multiple social media platforms. We had a YouTube channel, for instance. We had a Facebook channel. We had Instagram and all of that, but we were only using them nominally. The only thing that we were using on a regular basis was live stream. So we were live streaming our services, and that gave us a little bit of an advantage. So as soon as things began, we started to live stream our service as a result of COVID. And so we were able to almost immediately capture hundreds of our members. And one of the positive things about that is we were able to capture a couple of hundred more people from around the country. I have about 137 cousins myself. So, everybody was able to Zoom in or to, come into the live stream. And so that was good. But your specific question about cultivating relationships, that took a little bit more. And so what our ministries at the church did is they began to create these care groups. And the care groups began to develop our Zoom in ways that we hadn't thought about before, meeting with folks on a regular basis. One Sunday, what I did about a month and a half in is I told the members that I was very, very lonely and I needed them to write me a letter because I was an old-fashioned kind of person. So you can text me, that's fine. You can see me on Zoom, but writing a letter is very personal. And Reverend Crutcher, in the next 2 months, I received over 600 letters. And those letters are very, very close and dear to my heart. And I want you to say, since I asked them to write to me, I will tell you that I wrote every single one of them back as well. Wow. And I think that developed a sort of a personal thing that you're talking about. The real challenge was going to hospitals, as you well know, going to congregate care centers. Initially, pastors were not allowed to go to those. And it's only been recently that they've been opened up. You have to go through a little bit of bureaucracy, but for the most part, you can get to see just about most folk now, as long as the families make intercession. So you can do it, but it's doing it differently. Yes, indeed.
Absolutely. And especially as a hospital chaplain, having to reimagine what spiritual care looks like. We're just going to plug that in. That's going to be next week, spiritual care during COVID at 6 p.m. right here on the live. But you make a good point about having to think outside of the box. I'm luckily, I don't have 600 folk writing me letters, so I don't know how bad your wrist was hurting after that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah.
Bishop, a question that I have for you, and this is specifically because you are an Episcopal leader for other pastors and other leaders within the denomination. What do you say to those pastors who are so, what's a good word? So ready to get back into the church, but yet we're still dealing with deaths. We're still dealing with all of the things from the pandemic. Do you have anything to say to those pastors who are ready to open back the doors to the church, to the physical church?
Yeah. First of all, let me thank you for allowing me to be a part of this. I'm just so delighted to be able to be here with you, but also to hear these other panelists who have so adequately and amply shared, their experiences and sharing from their hearts. I want to say that is interesting that you would ask me that, because just today, I have not only been hearing from pastors, but laypersons who have been sharing with me their anxiousness relative to getting back and getting started. And of course, I know that we are, as has been stated, we are people who enjoy the fellowship, the relationship that we have. We want to get back into the services. And I too, I'm looking forward to it. I cannot begin to tell you how I have felt like Dr. Neighbors just mentioned, lonely. Hey, help me, and so forth. So we are all at that point. What have I been sharing with them, though? Is this? I've tried to make them aware of what's going on in the environment, what's going on in the world, in terms of helping them to see and to know that the numbers were going up. Now they seemingly, I think, are beginning to come to, I won't say a plateau, but they're leveling off to some extent in some places. But at any rate, I've been trying to get them to be mindful of the numbers and to be mindful of the fact that we want to open, but we want to open safely. Mm-hmm. And even though I get so many persons telling me about how they're going to do it and do it safely in terms of taking temperature checks and hand washing stations and so forth, as you know, one of the things that we have encouraged within my denomination and all the persons with whom I share is to just hold on for a little while longer. Because with the vaccinations and so forth coming, we're anticipating things changing soon. I have also encouraged, as I've heard others say, just try to find other ways to continue to build relationships and so forth, to be able to maintain and to just wait until things get just a little bit better. You don't want to be so close and then do something and be so far. And I was shocked, and I know this might be taking us a little further than where we want to go right now, but I was just shocked to hear of states that are already opening and what seems to me to be just a little bit premature.
Absolutely. But, so and you bring up a great point that I want to get to, because we saw the news of the governors of Texas and Mississippi 100% opening up. But some of our church folks, even in Illinois, may say, well, I have faith in God, and so I don't need to worry about wearing a mask because God is going to protect me from the COVID, from Miss Rona. And so what do we in the faith community, be it lay or clergy, say to that? And let's go to Miss Amber.
You will come to me first, right? Okay, here we go. So I am very much into the importance of the details and the practicality of things. And I think that it's really important for people to know thyself physically, to know what's going on. If they have underlying conditions, that definitely needs to be taken into account. I think that can't be dismissed. And I think, God has given us the gift of wisdom and discernment, and we must use that. And we can't throw caution to the wind and simply say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go in this, I'm going to go to service Sunday with no mask, or I'm going to go to the store because I live in Texas and I don't need a mask anymore because, the government has reopened. We have to really take stock and not just think about ourselves. What about the people around us? Do you have family members who represent a high-risk population? Do you have children who aren't yet able to be vaccinated? Should that, be an option down the line for a specific family? And so I think it's really important for us to be wise, right? I think it's really important for us to be wise.
Absolutely. I'm just going to open it up from here.
Well, let me jump in. Let me jump in and respond to that. I think it's a brilliant question and it was answered brilliantly by Amber as well. But let me throw in a couple of things. Reverend Crutcher, as you well know, and certainly the bishop, and I think everybody on the line, you know, there is no line of demarcation. There is no opposition between faith and science or between faith and medicine. All of that opposition has been made by human beings. My contention is, and I believe it with all of my heart, God made all of us in God's own image. So what that means is God made scientists and God made doctors, God made specialists, God made all of these people. And then God gave all of these tremendous gifts to these people as well. So for those people who are in houses of worship, who contend that their faith is somehow being questioned because they've decided not to wear masks or whatever. To me, I think that's muddying the waters. I believe this. Our houses of worship are filled with doctors. They're filled with physicians. As you know, Reverend Crutcher, we had a Zoom conference on bridging the gaps regarding COVID-19 and the Black community a few weeks ago at Second Baptist Church with Amita St. Francis here in Evanston. We had just about 90 people on the line, and we had Black doctors. All of them went to somebody's church. 3 of them were members of my congregation who were telling us about the things that Amber talked about, you know, liking the details, about doing the work and looking at the data and the statistics, and then coming away based upon that with the wisdom that she talked about. God, what does this mean for us? And what it means for us is that God is working with those folk, and we have to be patient. 1918's influenza teaches us that we have to be patient. Things did not open up in this society for another 3 years until 1921. I don't know about y'all, but I'm going to be patient. And because I love my people, I'm encouraging them to be patient as well.
Bishop,
may I just
your theological response to...
Well, I don't know if this is so theological, but the first thing that came to my mind when I heard you ask the question was to respond, don't put the Lord through foolish tests. And the idea is, I guess, I might be getting a little bit out of order there, but jump down and see if the Lord will catch you before, jump down off the mountain, see if the Lord will catch you before you hit the bottom. I mean, you don't put the Lord through foolish tests. And we've had years of experience, as has been stated. God has given all of us and various gifts to be used. So let's use those gifts. In our society, medically, as it relates to medicine, we have had years of being vaccinated for everything. He mentioned influenza, polio, all of those things, even childhood shots. I see this as no different than us doing what is necessary to take care of ourselves and our children, even as we go forward. So I am in the same boat as our other 2 panelists, in the sense of saying, hey, let's do what it takes to get through this. And by God's grace, God will see us through. So it is that faith. I have no qualms about faith and religion and medicine. No faith, no qualms.
Absolutely. Just again, to let everybody know, we're here with our first installment of our COVID and Faith series that'll be taking place every Thursday in the month of March at 6 p.m. We have Bishop Williams, Miss Amber Bolden, and Reverend Dr. Michael Neighbors joining us tonight. Go ahead, like, comment, and share. If you haven't raised any questions in the chat, now is a great time to do that, because in just a few moments, we'll be getting to those questions. And so you all mentioned about a very good theological concept of our hands being God's hands and our feet being God's feet, right? And the scientists being other resources that God has placed in our path to move beyond this pandemic. And so the biggest sort of elephant in the room is the COVID-19 vaccine. And so what do you all think from a place of faith about the COVID-19 vaccine?
Yes, well, for me, Reverend, again, I have been encouraging our members that as soon as the vaccines are available for them in the Evanston community, they need to make sure that they go and get their shots. We have a system where they have to sign in and register through the health department in the city. We're short on vaccines. You all know there's a phase 1 and phase 1B. So the first responders have received their vaccines. Now we're at phase 1B. People 85 and older have received their vaccines, 75 and older. And now this week it's going to 65 and older. So as soon as the opportunity comes, we're encouraging people to get their vaccine. And to me, there are 3 vaccines that are out there now: Pfizer, Moderna, and now Johnson & Johnson. I'm very comfortable with either one of them. They've all been passed by the Food and Drug Administration. And let me also say this, Reverend Crutcher, it's very important for our people to understand this, that the underlying element regarding all of the elements that went into the vaccines to make them what they were, many of them were produced by a sister who is a brilliant Black scientist working out of the CDC in Atlanta. So kudos to a sister who also is a woman of faith. I almost want to say, let the church say amen.
Amen.
Yeah. Well, all I have to say behind that is ditto, because I'm just grateful to know that we have opportunities now that with the vaccines. And certainly I will say personally that I have taken my first, and I'm looking forward to taking my second. I'm looking forward prayerfully to it helping me to be able to withstand COVID. And, so I really am on board with it.
I would just like to chime in from this perspective. The rollout is different in various communities, not just across the Chicago area, but regionally. And I think it's really important for people who do want the vaccine, especially if they're, senior citizens or older adults. If they need assistance, we should make ourselves available. I know that I have a group of people that I've just called to say, hey, were you interested in getting vaccinated? Let's do live time on the phone. So I scheduled out 60-minute blocks for people in the community so I could go online and make their appointments for them, because that is very cumbersome and difficult for individuals in various age groups. You could also have, just various other barriers to making the appointments. And so I think that that's a way that we can, also show our support for helping those, is just by simply being available so that we can help them schedule their appointment.
And Amber, let me add to that. I love the fact that you're involving yourself personally with that. Many Black houses of worship in Black communities now are being approached by their city's health departments, asking whether or not they would like to volunteer to be a location for the administration of vaccinations. So I would also hope that many of our churches, especially those that are connectional with bishops, might be able to look at that and say, is this something that we want to do? And will it be advantageous for the folks that live in that neighborhood? Our church is located downtown, so it doesn't make sense for it to happen. But we've got some churches in Evanston that have really nice parking lots and are located in the neighborhood. And we think that they're going to be open to having medical personnel there to administer the shots when they come in the next couple of weeks.
And that's a great, go ahead, Bishop.
No, I was just about to piggyback on that and to say that I'm delighted to say that many of the churches of the CME denomination in various places, my area in the 3rd Episcopal District goes from Denver to Detroit. So I'm happy to say that many of those churches, many churches in the area rather, have already started doing some things in terms of COVID testing, in terms of being a place for the vaccinations to be given, as well as, offering all kinds of, food and other stuff that could help in the process where people are in need and have been affected as a result. And I'm happy to say, just in case you all missed this, we're doing our part of education, because there's this gentleman who's from Evanston who works with the what's that word? The AAC. Yes, and his name is Reverend Khalif Crutcher, who happens to be CME.
Yeah. A brilliant young man, by the way. Outstanding preacher.
Well, thank you for the plug, Bishop. Amber, I want to go to you about this specific question because it's in your wheelhouse. But I think one of the things that get lost in this conversation of COVID and faith is particularly our young people, and not only just our young people, but their mental health. So can you speak to that? Like what, especially working in a school, can you
Sure.
speak to that a little bit?
You know, can I just say thank you? I feel like that question was tailored really specifically for me, and I was hoping to be able to talk about that, right? In general, let me just say this. First of all, referencing what Reverend Neighbor said about there being no line of demarcation between faith and science, this relates to mental health as well. If there ever were a time that we have been tried in the 20th and the 21st century, this is it. Right. And so first, I just want to encourage people, if you need to find a professional, a mental health professional in your community to assist you with whatever you may be feeling, right? People are dealing with anxiety, depression. We talked about being patient to being able to hold on, and that's a real exercise in faith, if we're just going to be honest. And so I think it's really important that we not disregard that. And just to also be clear, sometimes we hear the word crazy and we say, well, I'm not going to go get any mental health assistance because I don't want to be labeled or whatever. But listen, the same way you go and treat diabetes or a heart condition or whatever, we have to take care of our brains and our minds. And so I want to say that, right? Secondly, in terms of the adolescents, the teenagers, you know, this is my wheelhouse. I see it up close and personal. And, you know, yesterday, without divulging any identifying information, I was in my car headed to the store for lunch, and I just started crying because of how students are being affected and how they are breaking down, and students who were strong academically and how they are succumbing to the pressure of isolation. Let me also say this, the same way that as the church, we've had to kind of readjust and adapt and be as creative, perhaps more than we ever thought we could be, it's going to require us as families to dig in as well. And we can't necessarily leave that to the school. We can't leave that to the church. We can't leave that to other people. We've got to see this as a 911 in our own household. And so part of that means checking in with your child to say, hey, how's it going? One of the things that is really helpful, even especially as a communal people, we are villagers, right? Having an evening check-in just to see how the family is doing. And I know I hear somebody saying, oh my gosh, I have 2 jobs. I don't have time to do that. Well, then you engage the village. You find somebody in the family that can facilitate this conversation because it's good for you. You need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. You want to know how your children are feeling. And that way you're not surprised if something critically serious happens to them because life has been going on and you haven't been plugged in, not because you don't want to be, but because so much is happening right now. So it's just really important that we make space for our children to be able to communicate how they feel without us judging either. We need to be able to let them speak, and we need to be able to listen. And then if you need to scream, you call your friends or speak to your spouse and say, oh my gosh, I didn't know this was happening. I'm scared for my child. What am I going to do? But when you're listening to them, you're sitting there asking God to give you the ears to hear, to receive what they're saying, so you can help them process it so that they can stay healthy.
Yeah.
And I think you bring up a critical point, and I wasn't going to insert myself too much tonight, but I think that this idea of the Lord won't give more on you than you can bear, one, doesn't exist anywhere in my Bible, and two, we have to be mindful of what we're intergenerationally teaching our children, right? And so if we're teaching them that the Lord won't give you more than you can bear, then a lot of our children will suffer mentally because of that, just like our adults. And so you bring us into this space where in the hospital we would call it interdisciplinary, right? Where we have have not only the faith aspect to it, but we have faith and mental wellness and spiritual care, right? And they aren't two separate things. They're very interconnected. And so I think highlighting the importance of not only faith with adults and how we're navigating COVID, but also the mental health and wellness of our children is huge. And just as a reminder, those of you watching us on Facebook, please feel free to ask questions so we can get those answered with our panelists. One question that we have from a AACPG member, Dr. Alicia Fielder, she asked two questions. Are you, as faith leaders, inviting the community back to the church or still attending via Zoom? And the second question that she asked is, what do you tell your parishioners who want to attend church during this time when we are in the verge of turning the corner?
May I jump in? Before I answer that, may I just give kudos again to Amber, because from what you said, I just hear you saying the church is not just about dealing with one aspect of humanity, but the church deals with the whole person. And the whole person is not just spiritual, but it is physical, it is mental, all of those things. And until I had an experience not so long ago to sit with someone who had lost, in this case, it was an adult who had lost a husband and was unable to go to the hospital. And her concerns, she was just overwhelmed, thinking and wondering, did he really know that I wanted to be there? Did he really know that I was there in spirit? Those are things that, for the most part, can haunt people for the rest of their lives if left unattended. And I dare say can be passed on to children if handled incorrectly, or children have the same thing. That was that. Okay, to get back to the question at hand. Thank you. And it's so strange that I did that, because I normally tell people and preachers, you answer and do what's asked. But anyway.
Let the Lord use you, Bishop.
Glory, glory, glory. But at any rate, to answer the question of whether or not we are advocating going back into the church, right now, presently, I am not. For those persons who share with me in ministry, I have been sharing to hang tight for a little while longer, because it seems as though with the coming of the vaccinations, and as has been stated, the 3 vaccinations, and we're looking forward for our people being vaccinated. We are looking forward to just holding on and maintaining for another month or so at least, to see what's going on, and prayerfully and hopefully the numbers are going to keep coming down. I do not want to, well, I've told people at the congregations that if we are making a mistake, I'd rather err on the side of caution. And I don't think that we are erring with that, but of course, I'm just encouraging them to maintain and to continue for a little while longer doing what we have been doing. And I think now in my conversation, I did forget or not remember the second part of the question.
Yep. The second question is, what do you tell? Well, you pretty much answered it. Just hold tight for right now.
Okay.
And Dr. Neighbors, we're gonna ask you that same question. Are you all attending via Zoom? And what are you telling your parishioners who are ready to bang on the door at Second Baptist and let me in, let me in?
Yeah. So Reverend Crutcher, we are doing live stream, but we're doing live stream with multiple social media platforms. So we're trying to make ourselves available in every way that we can. People are able to tune in via our website. They're able to tune in via Facebook, and the most common use is YouTube. What we've also done during this nearly year that we've been in is that we've invested in more cameras and more equipment, so that the live stream that we're doing is much more efficacious and efficient in terms of what it looks like for people either on their phones or on their computers, or of course on their televisions, with regard to YouTube. So we haven't had a mad rush of people who are saying we want to come back, because we've been trying to educate our folks by having Zoom calls and by having email blasts on a regular basis, and even robocalls to
Mm.
update them on where things are going. Right now in Illinois, we're at phase 4 with Governor Pritzker's plan for reopening. We've been going back and forth between 3 and 4, but right now, even with things opening up, we are only at a 25% occupancy rate for people gathering inside. So if a church was going to reopen, then who are going to be the people who are going to go to church? If you have a church, if it's St. John CME Church in Detroit, which I know very well, on Woodward Avenue, they seat 1,000 people. So who are going to be the 250 people that would be those who are coming in? So you have to keep that in mind in terms of logistics. But I agree with the bishop, and I would say that now is not the time for reopening. And for those who are antsy and really want to open, as quickly as possible, and who are pining for it, we have to minister to them. We have to get some of our folks who make those calls to call them and talk to them and walk them through their feelings. As Amber said, there's never been a more sensitive time with regard to mental health and how this is affecting us all, but again, disproportionately affecting people of color.
Absolutely. And Amber, from your position as a laity, a lay member, how are you all doing church? And also, as a member of the lay, like, are you one of those people that's like, I mean, obviously not, but are you one of those people that's like, hey, let's get back into the church?
So I'm actually absolutely not. I am Zooming, and now the church has a sign up for a certain number of people. That's a process that's in play. But what it does is, well, let me just say this. I think in general, as Americans, we have been privileged in certain ways, right? In terms of how we move about the country. Obviously, there are degrees of that privilege. I am not ignorant to that. So I don't want anybody leaving this live saying, oh my gosh, what is she talking about? She's not informed. I'm fully informed. But what I'm saying is, just for an example, from a food perspective, one day I was driving and I said, you know what? How many places can I go to and get a sandwich, right? You have so many restaurants where you can go and get a turkey sandwich. It's ridiculous. We have a ton of choice. I use that as an example to say this. We're just used to being able to go and do what we want without thought sometimes, right? And what this has done is this has pulled us all the way back in. I mean, all the way back in. And it's a new behavior, essentially, that we have to learn, right? New behaviors. And so I think we need to maintain the long view while we have the short view in front of us. And, we have to be able to see the benefit and being able to take our time, because we've not experienced this before. We haven't, and we can't underestimate it. And, as one of my grandparents would say, be penny wise and pound foolish, because you're so quick to want to get back inside that then it causes a spread that is devastating beyond, what anyone could have thought. And so I am of the mind too, that people need to, walk again with wisdom. We need to, we need to take our time and be grateful that we have the internet. Be grateful that we have these platforms to at least still have some type of connection, even if it isn't what we want. And I say this as a hugger. I am a hugger, and I have missed hugging people. So if I can hold on as a hugger, I know we can hold on.
Yeah, and let me just say in our last 5 minutes that now I've been able to attend about 40 different churches throughout the week.
There you go.
Still tithing at my home church, Bishop, but we have that opportunity that we really didn't have before, because it has forced the church to make a shift, a dramatic shift, whereas some churches did not want to be virtual at all, but now they have no choice, right? And so in our last 5 minutes, I want to ask one more question because it's critical to this conversation of COVID and faith. What do we say to those churches that are very, what's the word, fundamentalist in their beliefs, and don't really want to share information about the vaccine? Here's the question. Do churches and laity have a responsibility to provide education about the vaccine?
Well, of course, let me respond first. I do think that we have a responsibility to do that because the question before us in the larger realm is a question of life or death. And the church is all about life and death. You know, Jesus said, I've come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. So in order to respond to that question, I believe that the church has a responsibility to be able to offer a message, as Amber said earlier, that is well suited to analysis and investigation. You get your best people in the church to study the issue. And then in studying the issue and coming away with as much as you can, you bring that information into a group that prays for your people. And then you craft the message for your particular people. I know that Baptists are a little different, but I don't do anything singularly at the church that I serve. Everything is always done with a group of people, and it's a large group of people. We have 40 or 50 people that sort of are putting their hands on something before we finally bring it to the larger congregation. And that's how we do it. However, any other church does it, they have to do it, but they need to bring a message to the people that are waiting for them because they need leadership sorely more than ever now.
Absolutely. Thank you. And Bishop?
Two thoughts came to my mind. The first in the form of both scriptures, I guess, but the first one, we are reminded that we are brothers/sisters keeper, so that we have an obligation to share, to educate, to enhance the lives of each other. And lastly, inasmuch as ye have done it to the least, then of course we are serving and doing it unto God. I think we do have the responsibility to educate and to help others to move toward that wholeness. And that wholeness, as has been stated, is not just spiritual, but it is mental, it is social, it is emotional, the whole being.
Thank you, Bishop. And before we close, Amber, we're going to give you the final word.
Sure. I'll just say in addition, and ditto, education isn't just an action, it's a principle as well. And us providing education is the principle to us providing education along a continuum.
Yeah.
Right? As a whole person. It's not just a segment, but it's us as a whole.
Amen.
Thank you so very much. That is our time. Listen, hold on 1 second. I've been in a lot of church functions all my life, and I don't think I've ever gotten out in the time that we've allotted for that particular service or event. So kudos.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you so much, Bishop Williams, my bishop. Thank you so very much for joining us. Thank you, Amber, for your expertise. Thank you for sharing with us and reminding us of the importance of keeping our children and our teenagers into this conversation as well as our lay. And thank you so much to Dr. Neighbors for all of the work that you have done in the Evanston area. I'm a firm believer that the work that you all are doing are saving lives. Thank you to our viewers tonight. Thank you also to our tech team, Janelle and Pastor Corey, who've been on the back end, making sure that we look good, sound good, know what's coming up. And we also want to thank all of our members of the AACPG of Lake County, in particular, our self-care committee, for hosting this event tonight. Thank you all for watching and viewing and sharing and being a part of this dynamic conversation. Next week, we continue on with our COVID and Faith series. Next week, we are excited to talk about spiritual care during COVID. We have we have a chaplain, Tammy James. I believe we have our own Pastor Corey next week. So please join us next week as we continue to have this COVID and Faith series that is crucial for the Black church and the Black community. And if I keep talking, we're going to go past the 45 minutes. So I'm going to stop and say thank you, thank you, thank you. Share this. Join us again next week.
And thank you.
Take care. Goodbye, everybody.
Blessings.